Maxie, I've been thinking, should we do season 3 on the Dr. Joe show? You sure? You sure it's a good idea? That's what I'm talking about. Welcome to the Dr. Joe Show. I'm Joe, and today we are continuing with our All About Aging series with episode 3, Storage and Aging Equipment. Humidors, winidors, Boveda bags, and hygrometers, and all sorts of other things that we run into and want to use to store and age our cigars along the way. This is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be showing you all sorts of techniques and ways to store your cigars, from the simplest, using Ziploc bags and Boveda packs, all the way up to some of the most complicated, constructing your own winidor. We're going to be looking at humidors, different types of humidors, how to season a humidor, and today that's exactly what we're going to be doing in this first part of the episode. In front of me here I have a rather large box containing a humidor by Prometheus, a company that manufactures mainly cigar accessories for enthusiasts like cutters, lighters, cases, and humidors, but they also do produce their own cigar lines, namely the God of Fire, to name one of the more famous ones, which are blended and manufactured by Fuente. Who else? Company that makes cigars for so many other companies on the market today. We're going to look at this particular humidor because it has never been broken in, it has never been seasoned, it has never seen a cigar. For lack of any better term, it's brand new. I've had it for a long time and I've just never used it because it would just be another humidor to take care of. You know, once you have 3 or 4 boxes going, and then I decided to try to move everything over into the winidor realm. But for the purposes of our episode today, we are going to season this humidor. I'm going to show you how I do it. Very, very simple. It's a technique that anyone can do. It's extremely easy, and it has worked every single time for me. If it doesn't work, you're either doing something wrong, which is almost impossible being how simple it is, or you have a faulty humidor. I'm going to show you that. We're going to take a look at this humidor, and I'm going to talk about some of the aspects of it regarding construction and other things provided within. And then we're going to get right down to business and start our seasoning process. So let's open up our box here and see what we got. Big heavy duty box, very, very nice. I'm going to put that down here. And as soon as you open it, you have your humidor, which is clad in really nice velvet case. You know, many of these boxes, when they do humidor companies, they'll have a front flap that opens up so you can just kind of slide the thing out. This does not, so I have to carefully pry it out. There we go. Ah, beautiful. Put it down, get that out of the way, and voila, there she is. So open it up, and boom, right away you see a really beautiful front face right there. You got your Prometheus emblem. Some people like this, some people don't. One common question I would get a lot at the cigar shop is, can this be removed? My answer is no, because if you remove it, you're going to have a problem underneath because of the way it's adhered. You know, I'm not even sure, actually. I've never removed one. I know removing it will screw up the finish in the front, it's possible that the thing is actually screwed in through screws that are hidden from the inner wall. I'm not really sure, but I know that removing it is just a bad deal. I would not attempt to do that. So let's pull this out. Turn it around for a second. There we go. There we go. There we go. So I want everybody to be able to see what's going on here. There's our humidor. So once you take it out of the velvet pouch covering, this is what she looks like. After that, the covering is really useless. You're not going to be using it for anything. I don't know. Cut it up, open it up, use it as a tablecloth or something, but it's useless after that. Unless you're going to take this and put it away or sell it, keep it in the box with the rest of the stuff that you're not going to use. For anyone who's interested, this is the model 0107H Ebony 100 count by Prometheus, of course. It retails for approximately $1,000. $1,000 humidor. Quite expensive. And we're going to talk a little bit about high-priced humidors and some different aspects that this humidor has comparatively. So let's, for now, open it up and see what we get inside. Opening the humidor, you have a lot of tissue paper. That always comes in. We're going to remove all that. That's, just to keep things from bouncing around. Did I get it all? Yep. Throw that to the side. And you have a couple of different things in here. You have your dividers, all right? You have your humidification unit. We'll look at that. That has a price tag on its own for $69.95. So if you wanted a replacement or whatnot, that's how much that costs. And then you have your Prometheus digital hygrometer and temperature unit, and that retails, has a price on its own. No, it does not. It has a tag, but it doesn't say how much it costs. It's the H Hygro/03. Okay, so what should we look at first? Well, and then, of course, you have your key. Little key for the lock up front. That's a nice feature. A lot of humidors don't have locks. Even expensive ones can come without lock and keys. And a lot of people like that. They like that idea. I like that idea. So the Prometheus humidor, by the way, is made in France, just like the LE Blue. All right. So as far as, having that European-made status, they have that. And it's really, really nice, tight construction. Looking inside, the inner walls are beautiful. They're separated. You see a thin line here where the top of the inner wall, the lip of the inner wall, meets the bottom of the inner wall. That's really fine construction as far as humidors go. Nice hard wood, beautiful job on the veneer, no chips, nothing like that. When you close it, you have a bit of an air cushioning that you can feel, and when you look all the way around, the edge of the lip is very, very even and straight and flush. In other words, you don't see any areas that have more of a gap than other areas. That can indicate a bit of a problem, that the lid isn't sitting on straight, and that can create a problem with the seal. So you look for things like that, and right here she looks all good. Very, very nice chromed hinges. You got your magnets over here for your humidification unit, and you have one up here for your hygrometer. Now, on the other hand, there's one aspect of the construction of this box that I don't particularly like. When you look closely at the corners where the panels of wood meet, with humidors you can typically have two types of construction. Miter joints, standard miter joints that just meet on an angle like that, straight flush line, and that's it. Or you can have locking miter joints, otherwise known as mortise and tenon joints. Now, there's a lot of hubbub in the industry about, is one really better than another? Of course, companies that make less expensive humidors that do not use this type of construction will tell you, no, it doesn't matter. Opinion or not, let's just look at the facts. Fact, the mortise and tenon method of construction is a superior method of creating a miter joint. Fact, there is no getting around that. It is a more complex method, it is more difficult to do, it is more expensive to do, and it creates a much stronger, firmer, lasting bond, which is what we're looking for with our humidors. Standard miter joint construction, on the other hand, is a very simple method. It's actually the simplest method of creating a miter joint. It's 1, 2, 3, easy peasy. You can build a lot of humidors very quickly. The problem is that there is no lock, okay? And the theory is, and I'm sure along the way that humidors with seals that do fail for this very reason. Especially humidors that work for a period of time and then all of a sudden don't. The problem is that these standard miter joints do not lock. They're very flat up against each other, and what we have in a humidor situation is wood that is impregnated with water, which causes it to swell, okay? Now, a lot of things are done to prevent this, especially with more expensive humidors. Cheaper humidors will oftentimes use pieces of a single piece of wood, a single slab of wood, hardwood, that they cut miter joints into and they meet together. More expensive humidors will use multiple pieces of wood, including medium density fiberboard. Even LE Blue uses MDF, which is, without getting scientific and fancy, it's really just compacted sawdust and glue that forms a very dense, hard piece of material. The good thing about this material, though, is that it doesn't swell like regular wood does. So it actually works very well as a humidor construction material. When you use a single piece of hardwood that's going to be swelling and contracting with temperature and humidity over time, and you have joints that are flush on each other with no lock, what can happen? One piece can swell and pop the alignment out of place. That's the theory. That's why so many people believe that you really should get a box with locking miter joints. And these happen to be, of course, more expensive. So, locking miter joints, regular miter joints, as long as the humidor works, whatever. But remember, some humidors fail after years of use, and they shouldn't. They should last generations, really. The LE Blue I own was found in an abandoned storage lot full of pens and pencils. It had chips at the seal, the edge of the box where the lip meets the bottom, all over the place from being slammed shut and abused, a crushed dented corner at the bottom from probably being dropped. I don't see what other thing could do that. It would have to be done by a lot of force. So yeah, it was old, abused, dried out, full of frickin' crap. I took it home, cleaned it up, seasoned it like I would any other box. It's been working ever since. It's an amazing box. It's a brilliant humidor. And I'm using just the regular LE Blue sponge unit. I had to buy a new unit because it didn't have it in there. But I'm not using Boveda, I'm just using distilled water. And it works like a charm. That is a humidor. LE Blue, Daniel Marshall, Michael Dixon, these are all companies that use locking miter joints. Prometheus, sometimes Davidoff, don't. But these are still very expensive humidors. They're not cheap, So it's an ongoing argument, I don't really have an opinion one way or another. My opinion is as long as the box continues to work, then it's a good box. I prefer seeing that method of construction on my humidors because it's just superior. It's superior construction, whether or not it affects how well the box holds humidity over time. Okay? So I'm not looking to get into some long-standing argument about, you must get locking miter joints and they're the only way to go and other boxes suck, and I'm not saying any of that at all. I'm just saying it's something to be aware of when buying a humidor. Better knowing than not. So let's move forward and do what we're going to do. We're going to season our box. Now, here's our little key. Might as well just stick that in there so it doesn't get lost. The unit, okay? This is the unit that comes with the box. Big Prometheus distilled water, uses distilled water hydration unit. It's big, it's heavy, and unlike a lot of units that come with companies, it is sealed in a plastic bag, and it has already been treated with a solution. They have a label on the back telling you about that. So we are going to be using our Optima humidification unit, and we're going to see how it works. And then I'll explain to you, of course, if I wasn't going to be using it, what I would do with as far as Boveda bags are concerned. But we're going to be using this. I'm not going to open it yet. We're going to open it when we're ready to season. I'll just put it over there for now, and that's all nice. Now, the hygrometer. This unit comes with a hygrometer / temperature, digital hygrometer temperature combo unit. And I gotta be honest, because, of course, because I'm doing this episode, I tested it beforehand and it's way off. Alright? I use caliber 3 hygrometers. For the money, they're really good. We're going to talk a little bit more about hygrometers in the future of this series, and I'm going to introduce you to some very good articles and papers by companies that use humidification, etc., about hygrometers and about the accuracy of hygrometers. When you spend $30 on a digital hygrometer, you can only hope for so much. There are hygrometers out there, units that go for thousands of dollars. Thousands. And even those units are accurate to within a certain percent. Relative humidity is actually one of the more difficult things to measure. It's easier to measure temperature, atmospheric pressure, and things of that nature than it is to measure relative humidity. And I'll show you those articles and we'll talk more about that. But I like caliber 3 hygrometers. They're about $30. What I did was, I have a whole slew of them, and I stuck 5 of them in my hygrometer. And they all come out, of course you can't put them in the exact same spot either. They all come out to approximately the same thing. Some say 65, some say 64, another one said 66, but they're all right around the same thing. When the ones I use for my hygrometer are the ones that fall right in the middle, the average of that range. I say, well, if this one's 63 and this one's 66 and these 3 say 65, I'm going to use these 3. You can't tune them. You can't adjust them. There are ones you can buy that are adjustable, but caliber 3s are what I use. That's what I like to use. This one said 70 in my Humidor, and it's not 70. I have 6 caliber 3s telling me that it's between 63 and 66. So we're not going to be using it. It's just not accurate. For the benefit of the doubt, I will. Here it is. It has a little stand on the back in case you don't want to. There you go. There it is. I'm going to put the batteries in it, turn it on, and we're going to keep it in our box along with 2 known accurate caliber 3 units to within, 2% or so. And we're going to see what we get, but I guarantee you this one will be way off from the other 2. I'm looking at, I have 2 caliber 3s laid out right now that I just took out of the box. Humidity is dropping. One says 39, the other one says 36. So as it drops, it'll even out eventually. So here we go. I'm going to put the batteries in this thing. Here is our Prometheus Hygrometer. It's called a hygrothermometer. And in the back, you have a little battery door. Okay, right there, that little hole. I just took the door off. You have a little stand on that. I'm just going to stick one of these little lithium batteries in there. This goes in right like that. Okay, and we're going to cover it up. And boom, it's turning on. Okay, so there it is. It obviously needs a little chance to even out, but even when it does, I assure you, it's going to be inaccurate, but we shall see, right? We shall see. So I'm going to stick that where it goes, right over there. The two hygrometers that we're going to be using, caliber 3. Here they are. Now, see, touching them is going to throw the humidity off. One says 37, the other says 35. And they're both approximately the same temperature. So we're going to stick these in the box as we do our seasoning. And now it's time to get into the seasoning of it all. Okay, so we are all set to go. I have some things with me here. First, I have distilled water, and only distilled water. Do not use any other type of water, tap water, even purified water, anything except distilled water. This jug cost me something like 99 cents. It's incredibly cheap. You can get it at any Rite Aid, CVS, etc. I have a smaller bottle which I fill up with the same thing, and it's got a little spout. Makes it easy to saturate the sponges. And that brings me to our sponges. Clean, never before used household sponges. I avoid buying sponges made from recycled material, aka green sponges, stuff like that. I just want a regular, standard household sponge. Okay? Don't forget, these things aren't like sterilized or anything, so it may not be good to use something that's been made of a whole bunch of recycled material. I use a regular household sponge on a small dish that contains a lip. Okay? That way any excess water that drips out will not flow over the side. I have another dish. Here's another way to go about this. So let me put that there so you can see it. I have another dish. Here's another way to go about this. It's a sponge that I cut in half, and I put each half in because it has a little divider. The only reason I did that is because it wouldn't fit, but I'm showing you that it's okay. You know, you can cut your sponge in half, whatever. This has a little container here, so I can really, really saturate this, and maybe a little excess water will even be in there. That's fine. That's good for the humidor. The more the merrier, you know? So, as you can see, I use a lot of sponge. There's no problem with that. It doesn't really speed up the process. It just makes sure the process works more thoroughly, that you have plenty of water over the at least 4 days that you're going to leave this thing shut. That is part of this Dr. Joe's secret humidification seasoning process. Not peeking. That's one of the biggest parts of this. Don't fucking peek. Leave it alone. Put a towel over it or something and forget you own it. Okay? That's what we're going to do. So we're going to saturate these sponges, and I've organized this into compartments here so that the hygrometers that we're using, they're going to lay down in here. That way they don't have direct access to the sponge. It's going to give us a humidification reading in its own compartment, because this should be just as humid as everything else when we open up our box and we get ready to put our cigars in. Let's get started. So here we are. I have a plate with a paper towel. I have my sponge in its dish. I like this dish because it's got a lip that I can suspend the sponge on, which gives it more area surface. The air can get in underneath, more evaporation can occur. The more area surface you have, the better. Little things like that help the process go well. Doesn't necessarily speed up the process, all right? So now I'm going to take my distilled water and just start draining it all over the sponge. Oop, see that? Spilled out on the paper towel. That's why I have it there. Keep going. Keep going till the whole sponge is nice and wet. Flip it over. You don't have to wear gloves because remember, you're going to be removing these sponges. And honestly, I've never used gloves in this process and I've never had a bad outcome. Some people prefer to. I don't think it freaking matters. So you keep on doing it, you keep on doing it. And then you're going to check. Let's take our other sponges. You're going to check, are we draining out yet? See that? Ah, there we go. You see that? Starts draining out, you know. That's okay. That means you have enough. Doesn't mean if it's draining out like crazy, you can let a little, here we can use our other sponge, we'll just put it on that, all right? But you don't want to completely drain it. Remember, it's just doing that now because all the water ran to one side. It's done. Make sure the bottom of your tray is dry. Make sure the bottom is dry because you don't want any water on the wood of your humidor, and you definitely don't want it trapped under there for 4 days. Dry everything out. It's nice and dry, and we're going to place it in the box. Now, did anybody see me wipe the inside of this humidor down with water? If you did, you clicked on the wrong video. Do not wipe down your humidor. Hold on. Let me make sure this point is stressed so somebody doesn't go, Dr. Joe, you forgot to tell people to wipe your humidor down. No, I didn't. Do not wipe down your humidor. It is completely unnecessary. If you have a good humidor with a working seal, wiping the wood down will do nothing except possibly cause damage. Wood and water don't mix. The wood needs to take in water slowly. People wipe down because they think it's going to speed up the process. It's not. It's not. All it's going to do is get the wood started to absorb water, but that's going to happen anyway over 4 days. And you're still going to need to wait those 4 days for the wood to completely absorb to its capacity. That's the secret, to not have any really dry wood left, that the water has been absorbed into the wood. Wiping it down does not really speed up the process. It only potentially causes damage later on, such as checking, splitting, cracking. Water and wood do not mix. Do not wipe down your humidor. Whoever started that trend wasn't thinking, okay? You definitely don't want to do it with expensive boxes. Less expensive boxes, people do it because the wood won't absorb, and it sometimes may help the wood to get started in absorbing, but I wouldn't go running off and doing that right away. I would first put the sponges in, wait 4 days and see what happens. You'll be surprised. You probably won't need to do that even on less expensive models. But never do it on an expensive model. Because if your humidor does not work after what I show you to do here, then there's a problem with it. Okay? Don't wipe down your humidor. It's a bad idea. It's just not worth it. It's not practical. It doesn't make any sense. You don't wipe down the wood inside your humidor. Water should never touch the wood inside your humidor. Period. End of conversation. Now that we got that out of the way, let's get back to the inside of our box. These sponges here, I already put a bunch of water on it for the sake of time. You can see the inside of the dish is nice and wet down there. Turn it over. Okay, we're just topping off now. All right. And that should be wet enough. That should be wet enough. Okay, so that's that. Now we're going to put in our second set of sponges there. Okay? The divider is there. Then you have our hygrometers now. We're going to lay them down because you want to keep the sensor part separated from the sponge. You don't want to have it like this. All right? Of course it's going to read high if it's right by the sponge. We're going to put it, I'm going to have one in down here in this corner, separated by the sponge. And I'm going to have one with the sensor all the way up in this corner, separated from the sponge. Okay? Right now they're reading 36 and 38, and the one on top is reading 43. Whatever, we'll see. We're going to trust our caliber 3s with this, and that's that. So now we have this guy. He's already treated with the solution. And like I talked about, I really don't like using these things with the solution and everything. But for the sake of our video here, we're going to use it. See, now the squirt bottle is really great because pouring, it just comes out too fast and too unsteady to direct it where you want it, and you're going to have a freaking mess, especially if you have a full gallon jug that has some weight to it. Harder to control. I like to just fill up my little squirt bottle. And in the case of beads, I use something even better, and I'll show you all about that. Okay, so squirt bottle's filled up, and we're going to load up our unit. Now there's a note here on the back that also says, distilled water through the slots in the front of the Optima humidifier. Do not use the holes in the backside to apply distilled water. Okay, the reason for that is they don't want it saturated back here because it can cause mold to grow on the wood. I would think they should put something more about distilled water, like underline distilled water and say nothing else, because a lot of people, you'll be surprised, will say, oh well, I have purified water, that'll be just as good. No, it won't. Alright, so we're going to open up our $70 Optima humidifier. That's a big chunky unit. That is a big chunky unit. We'll put it on our plate. And how do you fill it? Just like this. You pour it on and watch the water. It all just goes right in there. The beads you're seeing are up on top. Hopefully our water is in there. Yeah, now it's got some weight to it. Once you have it full to the point where it keeps pouring out, stand it on end, okay, on a paper towel, and just leave it for a little while, all right? That'll help any excess water come out, because you don't want water when you close it, 5 minutes later it starts dripping out into the wood and you don't know it. Leave it like that for a good 5 minutes. Once it's done, shake it off and we're going to put it back into the box. Alright, so our Optima humidifier has been standing up and draining for a few minutes, and now we're just going to plop it right into its little compartment over there. Again, check it out. See that? Look at that. Even after 5 minutes, it's still dripping. Still dripping out the edge there. Look at that. It's all wet. Well, we didn't pour water in the back, but the back is certainly humidified. It's been in that bag for a long time, and it's already loaded with solution, which is probably taking up a good amount of space in the sponge. So let's keep it this way now. And as long as no water is dripping out that way, we're good to go. Let's put her in. That's that. And that's it. So what do we do now? And wait. Wait, wait, wait. Go smoke a cigar, come back and check on it? No! Do not do that. Go to sleep, wake up the next morning and check on it? No! Don't touch it. In fact, why don't you lock the humidor, okay? Take the key and give it to somebody else and tell them, do not give this to me for 4 days. Because I'm telling you, it's very hard to resist the temptation to see what's going on inside your box. So, we're going to call it an end right here. We're going to come back in 4 days and find out what happens.